dog's ribs pressed against her matted fur like prison bars. She lay motionless in the mud behind the abandoned warehouse on the edge of Vancouver, her body curled around 4 tiny puppies who whimpered against her empty belly. She hadn't eaten in 3 days, maybe 4. Time stopped meaning anything when survival became the only clock that mattered. Gabriel Chen was taking his usual shortcut through the industrial district that December morning. He worked the early shift at the bakery downtown, and the alley cut 15 minutes off his commute. The temperature had dropped to -8 overnight. His breath came out in thick clouds as he walked, hands jammed in his jacket pockets, thinking about the rent payment due next week and whether he could pick up extra weekend hours. That's when he heard it. A sound so faint he almost missed it beneath the rumble of distant traffic. A weak, desperate whine. Before we go further, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell. Stories like this remind us why compassion matters, and there's so much more to uncover. Gabriel stopped walking. He stood completely still, listening. There it was again, coming from behind the dumpsters near the loading dock. He'd passed this spot 5 days a week for 2 years and never noticed anything unusual. Now something was different. Something was wrong. He approached slowly, not sure what he'd find. The smell hit him first, rot and waste and something else, something animal and afraid. He pulled out his phone, turned down the flashlight, and stepped around the rusted container. The mother dog didn't even lift her head. She just watched him with dark, exhausted eyes as he came closer. Her puppies, no bigger than his fist, crawled blindly across her belly, searching for milk she couldn't give them. One puppy had stopped moving entirely. Gabriel crouched down. The dog didn't growl, didn't bare her teeth. She just stared at him with a look he'd remember for the rest of his life. It wasn't aggression, it wasn't fear, it was resignation. She'd given up. She was waiting to die, and she knew her babies would die too. He reached out his hand, palm down, letting her catch his scent. Her nose twitched slightly. That was all. She didn't have the energy for anything more. Gabriel pulled off his jacket and wrapped it around the puppies first. 3 of them squirmed weakly. The 4th didn't respond when he touched it. He checked for breathing, for a heartbeat. Nothing. He set it gently aside and scooped up the other 3, tucking them against his chest inside his sweatshirt. Their tiny bodies felt cold even through the fabric. The mother dog watched him take her babies. She still didn't move. Gabriel knelt beside her and slid his arms underneath her body. She weighed almost nothing. He could feel every vertebra in her spine. As he lifted her, she let out a soft sound. Not a whimper, not a growl, something closer to a sigh, like she'd been holding her breath for days. And finally, someone had told her she could let go. Gabriel carried them both to his truck, parked 2 blocks away. His shift started in 40 minutes. The bakery would fire him if he was late again. He'd already gotten 2 warnings this month. He looked at the dog's face as he settled her in the passenger seat. Her eyes were starting to close. He drove to the emergency vet clinic on Hastings Street. The clinic didn't open until 8. It was 6:30. Gabriel sat in the parking lot with the heater running full blast, the puppies nestled against the dog's belly, all of them wrapped in his jacket and a moving blanket he kept in the truck bed. He called work, told them he had an emergency. They told him not to bother coming in at all. He'd pick up his last paycheck on Friday. The dog's breathing changed around 7:15. It got faster, shallower. Gabriel put his hand on her side and felt her heartbeat racing, stuttering, fighting to keep going. He leaned close to her ear. "Hold on," he whispered. "Just a little longer. You made it this far. Don't quit now." One of the puppies started crying, a thin, desperate sound. The mother dog's ear twitched toward it. She opened her eyes, just slightly, and looked at her baby. Then she looked at Gabriel, and something in her expression changed. Not much, but enough. She took a deeper breath, then another. The vet techs rushed them inside the moment the doors unlocked. Gabriel stood in the waiting room while they worked, his hands still trembling from the cold and the adrenaline. A woman sitting near the window offered him coffee from her thermos. He accepted it and forgot to drink it. 20 minutes later, Dr. Sarah Whitmore came out to the waiting room. Her scrubs were smudged with dirt and blood. She looked tired, but her eyes were gentle. "The mom's severely malnourished and dehydrated," she said. "She's also nursing, which means she's been giving everything to those puppies, even though she has nothing left to give. We've got her on fluids now. She's stable. But I need to be honest with you. The next 72 hours are critical. She's been through hell." Gabriel nodded. "And the puppies?" "2 boys, 1 girl, about 3 weeks old. They're cold and hungry, but they're fighters. We're tube feeding them until Mom can produce milk again, if she recovers." Dr. Whitmore paused. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Are these your dogs?" Gabriel shook his head. "I found them this morning, behind a warehouse near Main Street." "And you brought them here? Lost your job over it? How did you know?" "I heard you on the phone in the parking lot." She smiled, a small, sad smile. "The bill's going to be expensive. Emergency care, overnight monitoring, medications, follow-up appointments, probably close to $2,000. Gabriel's stomach dropped. He had $460 in his checking account. "I'll figure it out," he said. Dr. Whitmore studied his face for a long moment. "Tell you what, let me make some calls. We work with a rescue organization that helps cover costs for cases like this. No promises, but I think we can work something out. You saved their lives by getting them here. The least we can do is help you finish the job." Gabriel spent every day at the clinic for the next week. He'd show up at opening time and stay until they kicked him out at night. He sat beside the mother dog's kennel, talking to her while she recovered, telling her about his life, his childhood in Calgary, his parents' restaurant that closed during the pandemic, his move to Vancouver looking for work, his apartment that was too small and too expensive, his ex-girlfriend who left because he cared too much about things that didn't matter, she said, like stray animals, like people nobody else noticed. The dog listened. Her eyes got brighter each day. Her tail started to wag, just slightly, when he walked into the room. He named her Mercy. The puppies grew stronger. Gabriel bottle-fed them when the staff allowed it, holding their tiny, warm bodies and watching them drink with desperate urgency. He named them too: Hope, Chance, Grace. On day 9, Dr. Whitmore told him Mercy could go home. The rescue had covered most of the bill. Gabriel paid the rest with his last paycheck and a credit card he'd been saving for emergencies. The staff came out to say goodbye. 2 of them were crying. "You're a good person," Dr. Whitmore said as she walked him to his truck. "Don't let anyone tell you different." Gabriel drove home with Mercy in the passenger seat and the puppies in a carrier in the back. His landlord had a strict no-pets policy. Gabriel didn't care anymore. The first night, Mercy slept on the floor beside his bed. She didn't trust the dog bed he'd bought, didn't trust the soft blankets or the food bowl that stayed full or the water that was always fresh. She kept watching the door like someone might come through it and take everything away again. Gabriel lay on the floor beside her. "You're safe now," he told her. "I promise, you're safe." Mercy looked at him with those same dark eyes, and slowly, carefully, she rested her head on his arm. 2 weeks later, Gabriel found work at a different bakery. The pay was better, the hours were worse. He didn't mind. He came home every night to Mercy waiting by the door, tail wagging, eyes bright. The puppies tumbled over his feet, clumsy and fat and healthy. 3 months later, Hope and Chance found homes with families the rescue had carefully vetted. Gabriel kept Grace.
Mercy wouldn't eat for 2 days after her other puppies left. She'd search the apartment, whining softly, looking for them. Gabriel held her and let her grieve. But she had Grace, and she had Gabriel, and slowly she understood that sometimes family gets smaller before it grows again in different ways. A year later, Gabriel moved to a bigger apartment that allowed dogs. He built a small backyard kennel where Mercy and Grace could play in the sun. He started volunteering at the rescue that had helped save them, fostering dogs nobody else wanted, the ones who were too old or too sick or too scared, the ones who'd been hurt by people and didn't trust easily. Mercy helped him with those dogs. She'd lie beside them, patient and calm, showing them it was okay, showing them that some humans could be trusted, that some promises didn't break. Dr. Whitmore visited once to check on them. She stood in Gabriel's small backyard, watching Mercy play with Grace and 2 foster dogs Gabriel was rehabilitating, and she shook her head in wonder. "She was dying," Dr. Whitmore said, "when you brought her in. Another few hours and we would have lost her. I've been a vet for 15 years, and I've never seen a dog that close to the edge come back." Gabriel scratched Mercy behind the ears. She leaned into his hand, eyes half closed in contentment. "She just needed someone to show her she was worth saving," he said. "So did you," Dr. Whitmore replied softly. Gabriel didn't respond. He didn't need to. On the anniversary of the day he found them, Gabriel drove back to that industrial district. The warehouse was still there, the dumpster, the spot where Mercy had been dying in the mud. He stood there for a long time, remembering how small she'd felt in his arms, how her breathing had sounded like it might stop any second, how terrified he'd been that he'd gotten there too late. His phone buzzed, a text from the rescue. Another dog needed fostering, older pit bull, hurtworm positive, scared of men. Nobody else would take him. Gabriel texted back immediately, "I'll be there in 20 minutes." He took one last look at the empty space behind the warehouse. Then he got in his truck, where Mercy sat in the passenger seat with her head out the window, tongue lolling, eyes bright with joy, and he drove toward whatever came next. Because that's what you do when you've been saved. You spend the rest of your life saving others, not because you have to, because you finally understand what it means to be seen, to matter, to be worth the trouble. And you make sure nobody else ever has to wait alone in the mud, wondering if anyone will come.